Hello, beautiful souls. Tonight I want to talk to you about the process of major changes, transitions, emergence, transformations, the nature of those things. Welcome. My name is Anka. I do energy healing. I'm an intuitive. I am a mystic. I'm also working with these cosmic energetic themes, and I help them translate those into the collective, sometimes balance them, ground them all the way into the earth, whatever it's needed. And so what I'm feeling at this moment, it's this huge resistance to change. It's becoming almost palpable. And so this video is kind of like a summary for my experience in the last month, even though it's kind of timeless, because the things that I'm talking about, they're kind of timely to what is going on now, June, July, all the way probably until October, and who knows, and beyond. But there are still these fundamental things when change comes over us, the handling of that. But it's a really interesting sequence of events, from my perspective. And I think what I want to do tonight is create a background, a context of these experiences over the last month for me personally, and then have a series of videos on kind of solutions, how to navigate those things. And so here we are. This resistance is in the air. For me, it's almost like palpable. And I think a lot of this resistance has like two major subcomponents to it. First is anticipation, right? That's like we're kind of feeling it. It's building up, but you can't quite put your finger on it to define it or to articulate it. And so you're just creating more stuff within your mind due to this anticipation that is in the body. And then the second component is downright fear. Now, fear has a lot of fractals and has complexes. But if you break that complex down into little pieces, you will arrive at fear. And this is not no judgment or anything like that, but I'm thinking that if we can recognize these things, then we can call them out and we can then work with something because we were able to define it. And that's kind of what I want to build in the first part of this video, just trying to figure this out. Like, what is it? Talk out loud. And so let me go into anticipation a little bit more, because I find that quite interesting now that I'm collecting a little bit more data. So about a month ago now, I actually did feel a change inside Earth, like a resonance. And I didn't do anything about it. I didn't look into it. And I don't necessarily care about looking into the future, because I feel it's pointless at this point, right? Like 10 years ago, yeah, there was a possible use, and it might have been interesting. But now the timelines are so interconnected, the acceleration is massive. So even though a good psychic might see something in the future, by the time it gets to you, you're 2 octaves above that, and it doesn't happen. And so I just find that looking into the future like that right now, it doesn't serve anything for me. And so even that I had my own experience with that, I didn't do anything about it. But what happened next was very intriguing for me, because my guidance team became so active to make these videos and put a call out there for lightworkers to step into their mastery and up their skills and all this, motivation to, especially, starseeds and lightworkers, or whatever you want to call it. Those are just words, right? I don't want to get caught up in the naming of things. And but to me, it was craziness, because I had this message for a year and a half, and for me, it was like, okay, how valid is this? I wasn't really comfortable to speak it, and finally, I said, okay, I'm gonna just do it. I'm gonna put it out there. Well, what happened, and probably because I did that, YouTube brought all these other channelers and lightworkers who had the same message. It was a call for the lightworkers to step into their passion, right? They were basically saying in different ways, slightly the same way. And then I realized, oh my God, I'm not this, you know, um, lonely person. This is a massive movement. And whatever is coming, for me, it was very neutral. It was just the mass of it. It's like global. So it's not that it's positive or negative. It wasn't like an earthquake. They're just changes. And again, I don't get scared about things like that, because I feel like change is the only constant. And the call for me to step into my mastery of the skill and become even better at whatever my passion is makes sense for whatever the environment is. So that to me made sense. The kind of the worry and how I connected the two was just that pressure and the rush that, you need to be transparent. You need to go out there. And then I realized it is happening on such global scale. So indeed, there is a mass thing that is happening right now. And if you are aware of this or not, if you can articulate it or not, if you are an intuitive, because of the mass spread, you are feeling it. And so this anticipation is already rising naturally. And I think it's even worse because you can't quite articulate it. You can't put your finger on it, and you're staying within that confusion. And so this anticipation is just growing, because that's, after doing a little bit of research, that was my exact reaction. What is going on right now? And there it was, right? Huge anticipation. And the second thing with this anticipation is the resistance to suffering, because, well, if you've been on this spiritual journey and growth and expansion, then you've been through a change like this once or twice, except that this change now, again, even at a subconscious level, that is way more massive than any change you've been through before. And so that resistance to suffer again, right? Because most likely there's going to be a loss of the ego, or the identity shift and things like that, which, again, if you've been through those, you know how fundamentally rocking they are. And this call is not an easy call, because, well, speaking from my experience, right? I'm not in my head, in my definition of my purpose, I'm a project manager, right? For a small company, blah, blah, blah. And Spirit is like, no, my dear, no, you're a mystic. But to go through that transition and re-identification and stabilizing into that different reality, first of all, and then what that does with your relationships, that's a totally whole different story. Not to mention, financial, economic restructurings and things like that. So it's massive. So if you're still in this in between, I'm still at my job, but I know I'm supposed to be doing something else, because you're feeling the call, but you've been through change, you've been through transitions. And so this anticipation of, oh my God, like, how is this one going to go? Right? And then from that aspect, we move into fear. And the fear has to do a lot with the unknown, right? Because probably in our lifetime, at, at least for me, we also know that everything is up for restructuring. The political ecosystem, financial, economic, the medical, educational, what else is there? Farming, food, everything is in need to upgrade. And so, where is the world going while you're going through this identity shift, and your relationships might be falling apart? And basically, reality as we knew it is so fragile right now. All the supports are cracking, right? And so it is, I don't want to say natural, because I don't think it's necessarily a natural thing. It became natural because we made it. So, but there is this response of fear because the unknown is so great in so many dimensions. So that's the other huge resistance. And maybe number two within fear is this fear that you might be losing yourself in the conflict in itself, right? Because if you are deviating from that axis of your alignment, right, to your purpose, to your soul, and you're starting to merge as your identity starts to loosening within yourself, it's so easy for that alignment to get pulled into the many influences that are now available, right, in our material world, and not even the 4D. The influences are so great. And so that fear, it is so real, the fear of losing oneself. And it might be also losing yourself in conflict, because the forces in conflict, especially for a person who's determined, or a person who really works with fairness and with truth, a lot of these conflicts come to us in unfairness, in untruth, like downright lies. And the conflict then is so strong, that magnetism to fight it is so strong, that you can so easily lose yourself within that. So I think these fears that we're having now about this anticipated change are very valid. They are much more complex. We are also much more aware of the different fears that we're working with, that are available within our structure, let's say. And so that's really the good news, because we do have material within the consciousness, right? It's still, even though it's still, let's say, within us, it's not buried so much in the subconscious. It's in the consciousness plane for many, many of us, but yet even that, it doesn't necessarily make it easier. You're conscious of it, but you're still pulled into it, right? And so what to do? We are kind of at a crossroads, the way I perceive it, because if you've traveled already on this road, and again, with these choices, right? We have choices, blah, blah, blah. To me, I feel like we don't really have that many choices, because once you are open and aware to so much truth that is going on, you can't quite go back to being asleep. It's done, right? In a sense, it's like, oh my God, but even though my life was not necessarily easy when I was asleep, it's nothing compared to what it is right now. And can I go back? Not really. So I feel like the choice is only forward. Now, with this choice for us to truly go forward, it means that this cultivation of a foundation or a core to the truth of us, this authenticity, and the true dedication to the alignment, right? To stay true. The card that came for June was loyalty. That one really talks about the loyalty that we have towards this, the inner core of us. And to navigate the current environment as an open individual, it is a task. And right now, it's almost like you have to have protection because the bombardment, the influences are so high. I highly recommend that until you build up the aura, the electromagnetic field, your Taurus field, where you don't necessarily need to have like a conscious protection field all around you. If you're not having that, the amount of energy that you're leaking out, it's probably immense. So the tiredness, the moving in circles, the feeling exhausted, the feeling like defeated, you're almost, I mean, for many of you, maybe you're even feeling that you're going to throw in the towel, like there's no hope for you. Okay. And but from where I'm standing, it's like if you're already awake and aware, no, you you can't do that because you are caught in much more conflict then. So your only way forward is to cultivate this core, which is the core of stillness. And this is hilarious for me now because the stillness really comes through this active alertness, but also a physical stillness. And to a person who hasn't cultivated that, it can be hell. First of all, they have to go through this idea that they're not productive, they're not doing anything. Sometimes, if their home environment or whatever environment is not supportive, when they see somebody meditating for 2 hours a day, they're like, oh my God, what are you turning into? What's wrong with you? Then they have that judgment. And so I think it's difficult to sort of get over that threshold to build that foundation, that core. Again, to me, it's like you just have to do it. So it's sort of like starting a weight loss program, right? Now you have diet, now you have exercise, now you have mindfulness. A lot of the diet programs were very much more positive thinking, very mindful, right? The food was all about mindfulness. So it's sort of like that. You have many dimensions that need to be shifting throughout your day to dedicate this type of structure for you to be able to build this foundation, this core. And number two, I think on a higher scale, and you probably are there, you know that there is an intelligence within your body for healing, for integration. Like we're not doing the integration. When these cosmic rays come, what do? We allow the integration to happen. We don't know how to integrate those codes. And it's kind of the same thing when you're leveling up and you're moving towards this master level. Because and maybe I forgot to say that, but I'll go back to that. Um, so And so again, it's almost like we don't have that much choice, but to really rely on that trust that the body knows how to do it. And so to me, placing that trust within the body and within the spirit, because the mental and emotional bodies are sort of compromised with filters, with conditioning, with, bad habits, self-sabotage, all this other trauma, right? And so they're not really reliable. But if we put the trust in the spirit and allowing that to filter through the body, then we can know that truly everything that is coming our way, everything that is truly happening, it is happening for our highest good, to the highest unfolding. And so I feel like the mantra to go by, and the question to constantly ask yourself as the situation arise throughout your day is, how am I serving myself in this situation? And that to me is such a powerful question, because then through that question, automatically you're staying true to that alignment, and you're showing determination to doing the work as life unfolds. So at the beginning, if you can't dedicate 2 hours for your stillness and building that core, okay, 20 minutes, right? But as you are dedicating, how is this serving me? How is this serving myself? Then it's sort of interesting what happens. Life starts to rearrange itself in that way, little by little, not necessarily the next week, but you're going to have more time. Those 20 minutes, in a while, it's going to be 30, and then you get to an hour. And then you might have to, or you might allow yourself to have another practice and build, um, just build yourself through the different practices, whatever they are and whatever they call to you, because this change, the way I'm perceiving it, is calling a master to not only to go through the change, because that's really the task and the call that we are responding to. The call is to facilitate the change and rebuild this fabric of reality. And so the strength, the truth, the ability to distinguish, all that stuff comes from a master. And so if you can't get that there, then I feel like it's the worst place to be, sort of, because everything is opening up and you're in the midst of the chaos with limited abilities, right? But your abilities are all innate. You have within all the things that you need to handle everything that is dealt to you. But because that clarity, right, it's the onion, you haven't quite peeled all these layers back to come to your gifts, to come to your master level skills. And so you're operating at half capacity. So your life is constantly a struggle because of that. So to me, no, you absolutely have no choice but to level up. That's the only way that I see it at the moment. And keep in mind that this is still kind of very fresh for me, even though the message itself, it's been for a month, a year and a half. But now that I'm allowing myself to take this in as, wow, this is a real thing. And it is actually no joke. It has consequences. It is a reality that you cannot argue with. It is so real. And now I'm also serious about it. I'm dedicated to this mission, or this, I call it a project. And the next videos are going to be more so on the skills, the leveling up, solutions, what to just to help you navigate. And not that I'm all knowing, but I feel like I've been through these changes, and I'm a really good example of certain things, of what not to do, shortcuts, things like that. So let me know what you think. Let me know if this resonated with you, and in which way, because it is a collective thing. So I'm realizing that, there's pieces of this that resonates you know, at times. It doesn't necessarily have to be 100%, but this is quite fascinating, and we truly live in amazing times. And so I am sending you a lot of love, a lot of strength, and hopefully I'll see you in the next one. Thank you so much.